Beneath the shifting sands lie the blueprints of entire civilizations. This video will take you on a journey to uncover forgotten megastructures, revealing how modern technology is piecing together the plans of colossal cities buried for millennia. By the end, you will see history rewritten, discovering the ingenious strategies ancient societies used to thrive in the harshest environments. We will investigate why sophisticated water systems vanished and what hidden patterns satellites are now revealing in the emptiness. What do you believe drives us to uncover what was meant to stay lost? A vast emptiness can be the perfect keeper of secrets. We often see deserts as barren and lifeless, yet they function as one of the planet's most effective preservation chambers. The relentless sand does not destroy, it envelops. It swallows entire cities not out of malice, but as a form of protection, shielding fragile mud, brick, and ancient stone from the eroding forces of wind and rain that would have worn them away elsewhere. This is the great paradox of the desert. Its harshness, which seems to forbid life, is precisely what has safeguarded the fingerprints of past civilizations. The Sahara, the Gobi, the Arabian Desert, these are not wastelands. They are natural time capsules, their surfaces constantly rewriting themselves to hide the treasures below. Imagine a library where the books are buried, and the only way to read them is to learn the language of the dunes. What compels men and women to endure scorching heat and freezing nights, to traverse seas of sand on a rumor? It is more than a search for gold or artifacts. It is a profound need to solve a mystery, to find a piece of ourselves in the silence. We are drawn to these places by an innate curiosity to connect with the ingenuity of those who came before us, to understand how they not only survived but thrived, building monuments meant to last for eternity. These first clues were not found in the sand but on parchment and paper. Long before the age of aerial surveys, the most reliable guides were the meticulous works of ancient cartographers and scholars. Medieval Arab geographers such as Al-Idrisi created stunningly detailed maps and descriptions of the world, documenting bustling trade hubs and oasis cities that later simply faded from all records. His writings and those of his contemporaries act as cryptic treasure maps, pointing to locations that the desert subsequently reclaimed. They speak of legendary places like Iram of the Pillars, a city of towering structures said to have been lost to the sands, and the fabled libraries along the Silk Road that vanished into obscurity. Yet these documents present a unique puzzle. They are a beautiful blend of observed reality, travelers' tales, and cultural myth. A single mention of a golden city could be a factual account of a wealthy trade center or a metaphorical story about spiritual enlightenment. So how do modern researchers separate historical fact from enchanting folklore? The process is one of meticulous cross-referencing. Scholars must gather accounts from multiple cultures and languages, comparing a Chinese merchant's diary with an Arabic geographer's map and a European monk's chronicle. They look for consistent details like trade goods, distances between locations, or descriptions of local customs. Understanding the author's cultural context is equally vital. A description of a giant might be a literal account, or it might be a symbolic representation of a powerful local chieftain. By peeling back these layers of meaning, historians can narrow the search from a vast desert to a specific valley or a forgotten caravan route. This painstaking literary detective work provides the essential starting point, transforming myth into a tangible, if faint, trail to follow. While ancient maps provide one set of clues, the living memory of the desert offers another, far more personal guide. The whispers of the past are not always found in ink, but carried on the wind and in the voices of those whose ancestors walked these lands for generations. Indigenous communities living on the edges of the great deserts have preserved intricate oral histories, a vast library of knowledge passed from elder to child through stories, songs, and poetry. An elder in a nomadic tribe might recount a cautionary tale about a shimmering city of gold their people were wise to avoid, or a lament for a sweet water spring that once sustained a great kingdom before the sands claimed it. These narratives, rich with cultural symbolism and sometimes fantastical embellishments, are not mere fiction. They are often deeply encoded records of real landscape changes, climatic shifts, and the locations of settlements that vanished from all other historical records. The challenge and the art lies in the interpretation. Ethnographers and archaeologists now work closely with local guides, building relationships of trust to understand the cultural context of these stories. They listen not to mine for data, but to comprehend the worldview embedded within the tale. A story about a giant protecting a hill might be a metaphorical account of a formidable tribe that once controlled a strategic trade route. A poetic description of a valley that wept itself dry could be a precise memory of a region where the water table fell catastrophically. For instance, the intricate poetry of Bedouin tribes in the Arabian Peninsula has been instrumental in cross-referencing locations mentioned in much older, pre-Islamic texts, allowing researchers to connect literary dots across a gap of more than 1,000 years. This collaborative process does more than just pinpoint potential dig sites. It actively honors the original keepers of this knowledge. It acknowledges that the blueprint of a forgotten megastructure is not just its physical foundation, but the human story of why it was built and why it was ultimately left behind. By listening to these ancestral voices, we do not just find lost cities, we begin to understand the lives that pulsed within them. The whispers of oral tradition and the faded ink of ancient maps laid the groundwork, but a new eye in the sky has fundamentally changed the hunt. Satellite imagery and remote sensing have given archaeologists a godlike perspective, peeling back the sandy veil to see what has been hidden for centuries. High-resolution cameras capture the desert in stunning detail, while sensors like LIDAR use laser pulses to map the ground's surface with incredible precision, even through layers of sand. These technologies do not see cities as we imagine them, with standing walls and rooftops. Instead, they detect the faintest of scars and shadows left upon the earth. A long straight line that is invisible from the ground might reveal itself from space as the ghost of a forgotten road. A subtle geometric pattern, a perfect circle or a rectangle etched into the terrain, signals the foundation of an ancient fort or a buried palace. These are the fingerprints of human ambition, visible only from a vantage point high above the dunes. This non-invasive method is a powerful force multiplier. Instead of teams spending years trudging across vast, empty landscapes based on a hopeful rumor, satellites can scan thousands of square miles in a fraction of the time. They identify specific anomalies, precise locations where the ground tells a strange and structured story. This guides ground teams directly to the most promising sites, transforming a needle in a haystack search into a targeted excavation. The results have been staggering. In the Egyptian Western Desert, satellite analysis revealed the faint outlines of entire settlements surrounding the Dakar oasis. What appeared from the ground as mere undulations in the sand were, from space, clearly the outlines of homes, administrative buildings, and complex irrigation channels. These were not mythical places, but real communities that once thrived, their blueprints preserved just beneath the surface. It forces us to wonder, as we look down at our own world through digital maps, What other vast, organized patterns of lost civilizations are hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right technology to give them a voice once more? But a satellite's eye view can only tell us so much. It reveals the ghostly outline on the surface, the hint of a structure, but the true secrets are buried deep. This is where ground-penetrating radar comes in, acting like a precise medical scanner for the Earth itself. Once a promising site is identified from the air, researchers deploy this remarkable technology. It sends harmless electromagnetic pulses down into the ground. These pulses travel until they hit something with a different density, like a buried wall or a hollow chamber, and then they bounce back to a receiver. By meticulously moving the equipment across the site, a detailed three-dimensional map of the subsurface slowly comes into focus, all without a single shovel breaking the ground. It is like having X-ray vision, revealing the hidden anatomy of a lost city. In the stark, dry expanse of the Atacama Desert, one of the oldest and driest places on Earth, this technology has been revolutionary. Researchers used ground-penetrating radar to uncover the blueprints of entire settlements built by pre-Columbian cultures. The scans showed not just individual buildings, but complex, interconnected networks of rooms, ceremonial spaces, and most importantly, sophisticated water management systems. These were not simple survival outposts. They were carefully planned communities that mastered their harsh environment. By analyzing these subterranean blueprints, archaeologists can infer incredible details about the people who built them. The presence of large, centralized plazas suggests a high degree of social organization and communal gathering. The intricate layout of water channels points to a deep understanding of engineering and hydrology. The technology allows us to see the intellectual prowess of a civilization, not just their artifacts. This non-invasive approach also dictates a new, more respectful excavation strategy. The radar data acts as a guide, showing archaeologists exactly where to dig to maximize discovery while minimizing disturbance. It helps teams prioritize the most significant areas, ensuring that fragile, irreplaceable artifacts are only uncovered when they can be immediately stabilized and preserved. This changes our entire relationship with the past. We are no longer treasure hunters digging at random. We are conservators, carefully reading the story of a place before we even turn a page. How does this shift from discovery to preservation reshape our responsibility to these forgotten worlds? While satellites scan vast horizons, drones bring the forgotten world into intimate focus. They fly where humans cannot easily walk, swooping low over treacherous dunes and rugged canyons to capture the Earth's story in stunning detail. These agile machines, often no larger than a bird, are equipped with sophisticated cameras and LiDAR sensors. They work by taking thousands of overlapping photographs from every possible angle. Through a process called photogrammetry, these images are then stitched together by powerful computers to create incredibly precise three-dimensional maps and models of the terrain below. This is not just a photograph, it is a measurable digital twin of the landscape, revealing subtleties invisible to the naked eye. In the formidable Taklamakan Desert, a place whose name historically meant you go in but do not come out, drone surveys have achieved the extraordinary. They have pinpointed the crumbled remains of Buddhist stupas, their circular foundations barely visible at ground level. They have mapped the outlines of ancient caravanserais, the roadside inns that once offered shelter to Silk Road merchants. By plotting these structures across the desolate expanse, drones do more than just find buildings. They resurrect the entire network of commerce and culture. They show us the precise paths travelers took, how far apart resting stations were built, and how these routes adapted to the shifting desert over centuries. This bird's-eye perspective is uniquely powerful because it operates at a human scale. bridging the immense gap between satellite imagery and the ground team's trowel. A satellite sees a faint, discolored line, but a drone can follow that line as it curves around a hill, revealing it to be a worn-down cart path. It offers a flexibility that is revolutionizing fieldwork. A single team can deploy multiple drones to cover a large area in a single day, creating a high-definition visual record that can be studied back in the lab for months. This allows archaeologists to monitor delicate sites for erosion or unauthorized activity over time, acting as guardians from the sky. The question then becomes, what new dimensions do these flying scouts add to the quest? They grant us the perspective of the ancient builders themselves, allowing us to see the strategic placement of a watchtower or the deliberate path of a water channel as they would have seen it from a nearby ridge. Drones are not just tools for discovery, they are time machines that restore context and connection to landscapes that have been silent for 1,000 years. The silent stones of a lost city tell only part of the story. To understand why these places were abandoned to the sands, we must listen to the deeper testimony of the Earth itself. Geological and climatic data act as a second, more ancient archive, one written in layers of sediment and locked within tiny air bubbles in polar ice. These natural records reveal a planet in constant flux. Many of the world's great deserts were not always the barren expanses we see today. The Sahara, for example, cycled through lush green periods called pluvials, when it was a vibrant savanna dotted with lakes and supporting a rich diversity of life, including human communities. Scientists reconstruct these lost worlds by extracting long cores of mud from lake beds, analyzing the fossilized pollen grains trapped within, and studying ice cores from glaciers that have captured atmospheric conditions spanning hundreds of thousands of years. Each sample is a time capsule. A layer rich in certain pollens indicates a wet, vegetated era. A sudden shift to sand and dust signals the onset of prolonged drought. By reading this layered chronology, researchers can pinpoint the precise climatic pressures that led to a society's downfall. A city with a sophisticated water system might have thrived for centuries, but when the rains failed for generation after generation, even the most brilliant engineering could not hold back the desert. This climatic context transforms a simple tale of disappearance into a complex narrative of resilience and adaptation in the face of overwhelming environmental change. For instance, in the Arabian Peninsula, intricate networks of canals and dams known as Marib systems sustained powerful kingdoms. Advanced research into ancient monsoon patterns shows that these societies rose to prominence during a period of reliable rainfall. When the monsoons shifted southward over centuries, the lifeblood of these civilizations slowly faded. The elaborate water management that defined their power became a monument to a climate that no longer existed. This understanding does more than explain the past, it guides the future of discovery. By mapping these ancient climate shifts, archaeologists can make educated predictions about where other centers of human innovation might have flourished just before the arid turn, now lying hidden beneath the very dunes that sealed their fate. The story of a lost city is inextricably linked to the story of its changing world. A reminder that human ambition is always in a delicate dance with the forces of nature. The legend of Ubar stands as a powerful testament to this fusion of methods. For generations, the fabled city was a phantom, a cautionary tale from the Quran and Bedouin poetry about a wealthy, decadent people whose city was swallowed by the sands as divine punishment. Scholars debated its existence, many dismissing it as pure allegory. Then, in the 1990s, a team led by explorer Nicholas Clapp took a radical approach, merging ancient texts with the newest eyes in the sky. They used satellite radar images from the space shuttle to scan the vast, empty quarter of the Rub al-Khali Desert. The technology detected ancient caravan routes, invisible from the ground, all converging on a single suspicious point. Following these celestial breadcrumbs, a ground expedition was dispatched to the location. What they uncovered was not a mythical city of gold, but something far more historically significant: the remains of a heavily fortified octagonal fortress with towering walls and a deep central well. This was no mere village. It was a major hub, a crucial watering hole and trading post on the ancient frankincense road. The discovery was a monumental moment, proving that the core of the Ubar legend was rooted in a tangible, prosperous city that met a catastrophic end. The excavation revealed a city not destroyed by war, but by its own environment. Evidence showed that the massive limestone cavern beneath the city, which held its precious water supply, had catastrophically collapsed, likely from overuse. The very resource that gave Ubar its wealth and power ultimately caused its foundations to crumble, allowing the desert to reclaim it in what must have been a rapid and terrifying event. This case study offers a profound lesson for every search. It demonstrates that the most stubborn historical mysteries are not solved by technology or tradition alone, but by the deliberate weaving of both. The satellite provided the location, but the ancient texts provided the purpose and the cultural memory of its significance. Ubar challenges us to listen more carefully to the old stories, for they often hold a kernel of geographical truth waiting for the right key to unlock it. As we look to other legendary sites still hidden, what other forgotten crossroads are waiting for their stories to be pulled, piece by piece, from the sand? The sprawling citadel of Chan Chan was once the largest adobe city in the ancient world. Its high walls, now softened by centuries of wind, enclose a labyrinth of ceremonial plazas, royal tombs, and reservoirs that sustained a powerful kingdom long before European contact. This was the capital of the Chimu Empire, a civilization that mastered one of the driest coasts on Earth. Yet Chan Chan is not the beginning of the story. Further north, the sacred city of Carol rises from the Soup Valley, a complex of pyramids and sunken circular courts so ancient it predates the Inca by more than 4,000 years. These are not isolated ruins. They represent a continuous thread of urban innovation in the Peruvian desert, a timeline of civilization that pushes the very definition of complexity back into a distant past. How did these societies flourish where water was so scarce? The answer is etched into the land itself. Through ground-penetrating radar, researchers have mapped vast networks of canals and subterranean aqueducts that funneled water from distant Andes rivers into these desert metropolises. Aerial surveys reveal the geometric foundations of administrative districts and storage complexes, all organized with a precision that speaks to a highly structured society. The very layout of Carol, with its main pyramid aligned with celestial bodies, indicates a profound understanding of astronomy, likely used to guide agricultural cycles in an unforgiving climate. These discoveries force a monumental shift in our historical perspective. For a long time, the narrative of civilization's dawn was centered on Mesopotamia and Egypt. The sophisticated blueprints emerging from the Peruvian deserts fundamentally challenge that view. They prove that complex urban life, with its grand architecture, social hierarchy, and scientific knowledge, was not a singular invention in the Old World, but a parallel achievement born independently in the Americas. This is not merely about finding older cities. It is about rethinking the very map of human innovation. What does it mean for our shared history when we learn that the prerequisites for civilization were met not once, but multiple times across the globe, in some of the most challenging environments imaginable? The sands of Peru have preserved more than just stones. They have safeguarded a testament to the universal human drive to build, organize and reach for the stars. These fragmented stones are more than ruins, they are a language. When an archaeologist stands amid the scattered foundations of a great hall or a crumbled tower, they are not looking at destruction, they are reading a blueprint. Every line of a foundation, the specific angle of a wall, even the choice between mud brick and quarried stone, forms a vocabulary of intent. The layout of a city is its functional grammar, telling us how people moved, worked, and worshipped. A temple precisely aligned with the rising sun on a solstice is not a random pile of rocks. It is a deliberate statement of celestial knowledge and spiritual belief, etched permanently into the earth. The extraordinary thickness of a perimeter wall speaks volumes about a society's need for security, whispering of potential conflicts or the immense wealth it was built to protect. This is architectural forensics, a meticulous process of turning silent rubble back into a living story. Researchers measure, map, and compare. They might notice that the ventilation shafts in a buried Persian palace are angled to catch the prevailing wind, creating a natural cooling system centuries before modern air conditioning. Or they may find that the intricate network of channels in a Mesopotamian ziggurat was not just for decoration, but a sophisticated method of directing rainwater away from the fragile mud brick core, preserving the structure for generations. By comparing these engineering solutions across different sites and eras, a pattern of technological transfer begins to emerge. Perhaps a specific style of arch, first developed in one desert kingdom, appears centuries later in a civilization 1,000 miles away, suggesting a forgotten route of trade not in goods but in ideas. This forensic analysis answers the most human of questions. How did they keep cool in blistering heat? How did they store enough water to survive years of drought? How did they design spaces that fostered community or inspired awe? The choices made by these ancient builders were not arbitrary. They were direct responses to the challenges and aspirations of their time. When we decode their blueprints, we are not just learning about their buildings, we are learning about their priorities, their fears, and their brilliant, practical ingenuity. What do our own cities, with their glass towers and sprawling suburbs, say about us to the archaeologists of the future? The true heart of a desert city was not its grandest temple, but its most humble channel. Water was the ultimate currency, and the systems built to harness it represent the pinnacle of ancient ingenuity. Excavations consistently uncover far more than simple wells. They reveal complex, carefully engineered networks designed to capture every possible drop. Canals diverted seasonal floodwaters into massive reservoirs. Dams controlled the flow of precious streams, but perhaps the most brilliant innovation was the canat, a gently sloping underground tunnel that tapped into water trapped deep within foothills and mountain aquifers. By traveling underground, this system prevented life-giving water from evaporating under the relentless desert sun, delivering it directly to the fields and fountains of a city. This was not just plumbing, it was a profound understanding of geology and physics. These feats of hydraulic engineering transformed barren landscapes into green, productive centers. A reliable water supply meant a community could support agriculture beyond mere subsistence, enabling population growth and the specialization of labor that defines a complex society. Artisans, priests, and administrators could thrive because the farmers were empowered by engineered water. The scale and complexity of these systems speak volumes about the society that built them. Constructing and maintaining a vast network of canats or canals required a highly organized workforce, centralized planning, and a long-term vision spanning generations. It points to a collective priority, a shared understanding that survival depended on communal effort and meticulous management of their most vital resource. The Nabateans of Petra offer a masterclass in this art. In the heart of a rocky desert, they carved intricate channels directly into the rose-red cliffs, diverting scarce rainwater into a series of dams, cisterns, and reservoirs. Their entire city was designed as a colossal water harvesting machine, allowing them to control flash floods and store enough water to support tens of thousands of people and even lavish gardens. This deep knowledge of their environment granted them immense power and wealth as a hub on the incense trade routes. Their destiny was literally carved by water. When we study these systems, we are not just looking at ancient infrastructure, we are reading a society's blueprint for survival. The resilience of a civilization was tested not in times of plenty, but during periods of prolonged drought. A well-maintained canal system could mean the difference between a city weathering a decade of dry years and being abandoned to the sands. The choices they made about water distribution, who had access and who did not, reveal the very social and political structures that held their world together. In the relentless logic of the desert, water did not just shape their cities, it authored their fate. A broken piece of pottery is far more than just a shattered vessel. It is a coded message from the past, waiting for its language to be deciphered. While the grand foundations of a city reveal its public skeleton, it is the small, everyday artifacts that let us hear the whispers of the people who lived there. A simple clay pot found in the ruins of a desert outpost can tell an epic story of connection. Through a technique called compositional analysis, scientists can trace the specific clay and minerals in the ceramic back to its source, sometimes hundreds of miles away. That single pot becomes a data point on a forgotten map, proving that trade routes once thrived across what we now see as impassable barriers. Similarly, a small, intricately carved stone seal, used to stamp an impression into clay or wax, is more than a piece of art. It is a fossilized signature of bureaucracy. The presence of such seals indicates a society with a system of ownership, trade agreements, and perhaps even taxation. It shows a move from simple tribal life to organized commerce and governance. Each of these objects, from a corroded copper tool to a faded textile fragment, is a single thread in the vast tapestry of a culture's social, economic, and religious blueprint. They answer fundamental questions. Did this society have specialized craftspeople? The quality of their tools tells us. What gods did they worship? The symbols on their jewelry and household altars reveal their beliefs. How did they cope with scarcity? The design of their storage containers and the evidence of repaired goods speak to their resilience. The astonishing preservation in the Tarim Basin offers a perfect example. The extremely dry, salty soil acted as a natural freezer, safeguarding not just the physical remains of individuals, but their entire wardrobe. The analysis of these textiles, from finely woven woolen cloaks to felted hats, has illuminated a stunning cultural mosaic. The clothing shows influences from across Eurasia, suggesting this was not a remote backwater, but a vibrant crossroads where East and West exchanged not only goods but also styles and technologies long before the historical Silk Road was formally recognized. These are not just mummies, they are a portrait gallery of a lost world, each thread a testament to human interaction. So the next time you look at a simple, everyday object from your own life, consider what it would say about you to someone 1,000 years from now. What story would your coffee cup, your phone, or your shoes tell about the world you inhabit? Each artifact, no matter how mundane, is a vessel for the human story, waiting for its time to speak again. A city's power was drawn not from its walls, but from the paths that led to its gates. The sprawling deserts, far from being empty barriers, were crisscrossed by the vital arteries of ancient globalization. The legendary Silk Road, the fragrant incense route, and the gold-laden trails across the Sahara did more than move goods, they built empires out of sand. Settlements like Palmyra in Syria and Timbuktu in Mali were not accidents of geography. They were deliberate creations positioned at oases that served as natural stopping points for weary caravans. Their entire reason for being was to offer shelter, security, and a marketplace for traders who had crossed hundreds of miles of barren wilderness. In these hubs, a merchant from China could barter with a glassmaker from Rome, while a scholar from Baghdad debated with a holy man from West Africa. The city itself was the megastructure, a complex machine designed to facilitate exchange on a continental scale. The evidence of this interconnected world is unearthed with every trowel of sand. A hoard of Roman coins found in an Indian port city, a fragment of Chinese silk preserved in an Egyptian burial, a piece of distinctive Mediterranean pottery lying in the ruins of a Central Asian caravanserai. These are the fingerprints of a pre-modern global economy. The architecture of these cities often tells the same story of cultural fusion. In Palmyra, the grand colonnaded streets and temples blend Greco-Roman design with distinctively Persian and local Syrian elements, creating a unique architectural language born of its role as a bridge between empires. This was not merely aesthetic, it was a functional blueprint for a cosmopolitan society that thrived on diversity and tolerance. The wealth generated by taxing this endless flow of luxuries, silk, spices, ivory, and gold, funded the construction of monumental libraries, universities, and temples that turned these trade nodes into legendary centers of learning and culture. The fate of these desert metropolises was tied directly to the health of the trade routes that sustained them. When political instability made a route too dangerous, or when new maritime technologies offered a cheaper, safer alternative, the economic lifeblood was cut off. The slow, painful decline of a city like Petra was not caused by a sudden invasion, but by the gradual rerouting of the incense trade to sea lanes. The caravans simply stopped coming. Without the constant flow of wealth and people, the sophisticated water systems fell into disrepair, the markets fell silent, and the relentless desert sands, once held at bay by bustling human activity, began their slow, patient reclamation. The very globalization that gave them birth also sealed their fate when the world's economic currents shifted. This raises a profound question for our own era of interconnected supply chains and digital markets. How many of our own great cities, built on specific flows of capital and goods, might one day be vulnerable to a change in the world's chosen pathways? The ruins of these desert hubs stand as silent sentinels, reminding us that commerce can build wonders, but it is a force that is always, inevitably, in motion. Yet the very air that surrounds these ruins can become their greatest enemy. The desert's perfect preservation is a fragile bargain, one that shatters the moment a site is exposed. For centuries, organic materials like wood, textiles, and delicate carvings have been held in a state of suspended animation, protected by the stable, dry environment. But once archaeologists break the seal and excavation begins, the clock starts ticking. The sudden shift in humidity can cause wood to warp and splinter in a matter of hours. Priceless fabrics, once vibrant, can crumble into dust when met with moisture from the air. It is a heartbreaking race against time, where the act of discovery itself can trigger a process of rapid decay. This presents a profound ethical dilemma for every researcher in the field. The driving passion to uncover a lost city must be carefully weighed against the responsibility to protect it. How do you balance the world's right to see these wonders with the duty to ensure they exist for future study? The answer often lies in leaving much of a site intentionally untouched. Many teams, after carefully documenting a structure with three-dimensional scanning, will deliberately rebury it. They return the protective blanket of sand, knowing it is the most effective preservative they have. For structures too large to rebury, protective shelters are constructed to shield fragile walls and foundations from the elements. These are not permanent solutions, but they buy precious time. This constant battle highlights the critical importance of the non-invasive methods we discussed earlier. Ground-penetrating radar and drone surveys are not just tools for finding lost cities, they are essential strategies for preserving them. By creating a perfect digital twin of a site through photogrammetry, we can study every detail indefinitely without ever exposing the original to harm. These high-resolution models allow archaeologists to take virtual measurements, test structural theories, and even share the experience with the global public in a way that physical travel never could. This digital blueprint becomes an eternal record, a backup copy of history. It forces us to ask a difficult question. As our technology improves and allows us to uncover more, does our primary goal shift from excavation to conservation? Perhaps the ultimate act of respecting these ancient builders is to learn their stories while leaving their creations sleeping safely beneath the sand, their secrets kept intact for a future that may have even better ways to listen. The responsibility of uncovering these places carries a weight far heavier than the sand that covers them. An archaeologist's trowel does not just break ground, it breaks a silence that has lasted for centuries, and with that act comes a profound duty to the living as well as the dead. The most vital ethical framework in modern archaeology is built on partnership with the communities who have long been the guardians of these lands. This means moving beyond a model where outside experts arrive, extract knowledge and artifacts, and depart. It requires a continuous, respectful dialogue with indigenous groups, acknowledging their deep ancestral ties and treating their oral histories not as folklore to be verified, but as invaluable primary sources in their own right. This collaborative approach ensures that research questions are relevant, that excavation is conducted with cultural sensitivity, and that the stories told about a site are complete, weaving together scientific data with enduring cultural memory. How do we ensure the legacy of a discovery benefits those to whom it matters most? This often involves creating agreements for sharing findings, providing training and employment for local team members, and planning for the long-term curation of artifacts within their region of origin, making them accessible to the descendants of the people who created them. This collaborative spirit is critically tested by the persistent threat of looting. The illegal antiquities trade fuels the destruction of irreplaceable cultural heritage, as looters rip artifacts from their context to sell on the black market. A beautiful pot, once removed from the layer of soil where it was found, loses most of its story. It can no longer tell us about the daily life of the household it belonged to or the trade routes that brought it there. The response to this is a multi-layered effort combining stringent laws with community-based guardianship. When local populations are empowered as partners in preservation, they become the most effective protectors of their own heritage. Furthermore, the complex issue of repatriation, the return of culturally significant objects to their communities of origin, is a crucial step in healing historical wounds and restoring a sense of wholeness. This process acknowledges that some artifacts are not merely art objects, but living pieces of a cultural and spiritual identity. Even well-intentioned discovery has an environmental cost. Desert ecosystems, while appearing stark, are delicate webs of life finely tuned to survive with minimal resources. The simple act of driving vehicles across the landscape can destroy fragile cryptobiotic soil crusts, a living surface that prevents erosion and takes decades to recover. Excavations can disrupt the habitats of uniquely adapted species. Responsible archaeology now mandates meticulous environmental impact assessments before work begins. Teams use established paths, limit their footprint, and carefully restore the land after their research is complete. The goal is to leave the smallest possible trace, ensuring that the process of uncovering one chapter of history does not erase another. The final and perhaps most challenging ethical frontier is managing the aftermath of success. When a lost city is revealed to the world, it can trigger a surge of tourism that, without careful planning, can love a site to death. The footsteps of thousands of visitors can wear down ancient floors, while increased humidity from their breath can damage paintings that survived for millennia in dry stillness. Sustainable tourism models are essential, often involving controlled access, raised walkways to protect fragile foundations, and revenue sharing that directly supports both conservation efforts and the local economy. This holistic view transforms archaeology from a solitary hunt for treasure into a shared stewardship, where every decision is measured against its impact on culture, community, and the delicate desert itself. A single discipline can only read one page of the story. The true blueprint of a lost city emerges only when multiple voices speak together. Solving the puzzle of a desert megastructure is not a solo endeavor, it is a symphony of expertise. An archaeologist might uncover the foundation of a granary, but it takes a geologist to analyze the sediment layers around it, pinpointing a centuries-long drought that forced its abandonment. A climatologist can then take that data and connect it to global weather patterns, revealing how a shift in monsoon winds thousands of miles away caused that local disaster. Meanwhile, an anthropologist or linguist works alongside local community elders, deciphering inscriptions on a temple wall that confirm the name of a forgotten king, or interpreting oral histories that describe the very famine the geological record suggests. Each specialist brings a unique lens, a different set of tools to the same sprawling mystery. The geologist's core sample, the climatologist's ice core data, the linguist's translated glyph, and the elder's story are not separate clues. They are interconnected pieces of a single, vast mosaic. Without this collaboration, the picture remains fragmented. An archaeologist working alone might conclude a city fell to invaders, missing the subtle environmental evidence that tells a far more complex tale of a slow, grinding decline under climatic pressure. This integrated approach actively prevents narrow, incomplete conclusions. It forces interpretations to be tested and refined against multiple, independent lines of evidence. The decades-long Dakar Oasis project in Egypt's western desert stands as a powerful testament to this model. There, a permanent international team of archaeologists, geomorphologists, botanists, and physical anthropologists have not just excavated sites, they have reconstructed the entire lifeway of the oasis. They understand not only how people built their homes, but what crops they grew, how the local landscape evolved, and how their health was impacted by their environment across millennia. This depth of understanding is impossible to achieve in isolation. How does this collaborative alchemy work in practice? It happens in the field, around a map in the evening, where a ceramic specialist points out that a particular style of pottery, which dates to a specific century, was found only in layers above a certain sediment line. The geologist then confirms that line represents a major flood event. Suddenly, the team has a precise timeline, linking a cultural artifact to a natural disaster. This is how a multidisciplinary team does more than just accelerate discovery. It weaves the thin, isolated threads of data into the rich, durable fabric of history. It ensures that the story of a place is not just about its stones, but about the people who moved them, the climate that challenged them, and the earth that ultimately reclaimed them. A shimmering oasis seen from a distance might be a mirage, or it might be the echo of a legend. The human imagination has always populated the empty spaces on the map with wonders, and the great deserts are fertile ground for tales of lost cities of unimaginable wealth and power. These stories, from the fabled Zerzura in the Sahara to the Christian kingdom of Prester John, said to rule somewhere in the east, create a powerful tension between the world of myth and the world of dirt and stone. For the archaeologist, these legends are not dismissed as mere fantasy, but treated as a unique type of historical document, one written in the language of cultural memory and symbolic narrative. The challenge lies in a delicate dance of critical evaluation, holding both a healthy skepticism and a profound open-mindedness. The legend of the city of the Caesars in Patagonia, a place rumored to be rich with gold and gems, drew explorers for centuries. They never found the mythical metropolis, but their searches, guided by the bones of the story, often led them to the very real and significant sites of indigenous peoples whose own histories were waiting to be heard. This is the recurring pattern. A story might be wrong in its specifics. A city of gold might be a city of painted adobe gleaming in the sun, but it is often right about the location, preserving a memory of a place that was once a center of importance. How do we separate the symbolic truth from the literal claim? It requires reading the story for its environmental and geographical clues. A tale about a city protected by a sleeping dragon might be a metaphorical warning about a treacherous, serpentine mountain pass leading to a real valley settlement. A description of a king with the head of a dog could be a cultural representation of a tribe that used a canine motif in its heraldry. The process is not about debunking so much as it is about translating, peeling back the layers of allegory to find the kernel of a real place, a real event, or a real people. This nuanced approach allows us to honor the power of the story while still following the rigorous trail of physical evidence. It acknowledges that folklore is not a lesser form of history, but a different one, a vessel that can carry the blueprint of a forgotten world across hundreds of generations, waiting for the right moment to be unearthed and understood. A digital chisel now carves form from fragmented data. The same laser scans and drone surveys that locate lost cities are breathing life back into their ruins, not with physical stone, but with pixels and code. Advanced software takes the precise measurements from ground-penetrating radar and photogrammetry, weaving them into stunningly detailed three-dimensional models. This is far more than an artistic rendering. It is a scientific tool built from millions of data points. Researchers can virtually walk through a reconstructed palace, testing sightlines from a king's throne to understand the psychology of power, or simulate water flow through ancient aqueducts to see if their engineering theories hold. The sprawling stone complexes of Great Zimbabwe, once a mystery to early European colonists who could not believe it was built by Africans, are now meticulously recreated. Virtual models reveal the sophisticated spatial organization between the royal enclosures and the commoners' valleys, illustrating a complex social hierarchy etched in granite. For the Nabatean capital of Petra, digital artists use scans of the ornate facades to restore the vibrant colors that once adorned the rose-red cliffs, transforming a silent, monochrome canyon into the bustling, polychrome trade metropolis it once was. This digital preservation creates an eternal record, a fail-safe against the inevitable erosion, vandalism, or even deliberate destruction that can erase a physical site forever. The most profound transformation, however, comes with virtual reality. Donning a headset is a form of intellectual time travel. You are no longer a passive observer, you are standing in the main square. You can look up at the intimidating height of a defensive wall, grasp the immense scale of a reservoir, and feel the carefully planned breeze through a colonnaded street. This immersive experience shatters the emotional distance of a textbook diagram. It fosters a visceral connection, allowing you to comprehend not just the architecture, but the atmosphere, the intended awe, and the daily rhythm of a place. How does seeing a lost city through the eyes of its inhabitants change our understanding of their world? It moves us from analyzing their blueprint to, for a fleeting moment, sharing their space. The very ground beneath our feet is now telling a new story, one unlocked not by trowels but by a warming planet. As global temperatures climb, the protective shroud of the desert is being pulled back in unexpected ways. In high-altitude deserts, ancient ice patches that have remained frozen for millennia are finally melting, revealing perfectly preserved artifacts left behind by travelers and hunters. A wooden arrow shaft, a leather shoe, or a bundle of medicinal herbs, objects that were lost in a sudden snowstorm thousands of years ago, are now emerging into the sunlight as if frozen in time just yesterday. Simultaneously, in vast lowland sand seas, powerful new wind patterns are actively reshaping the dunes, scouring away mountains of sand to expose the tops of walls and the outlines of foundations no one knew were there. These are not planned excavations, they are spontaneous revelations gifted and threatened by a changing climate. This presents a bittersweet reality for archaeologists. Each new exposure is a priceless opportunity, a chance to document a site that was completely unknown. Yet, the moment these structures and artifacts are freed from their stable, dry, or frozen tombs, the clock of decay begins ticking at an alarming speed. A wooden tool preserved in ice for 4,000 years can warp and splinter in a single afternoon. A mud brick wall, once sheltered, becomes vulnerable to the very wind and rain that it was buried to escape. This has ignited a global race against time, a desperate effort to document these emerging blueprints before they vanish forever. Teams are deploying drones and ground-penetrating radar, not just to find lost cities, but to save them, creating perfect digital records as a last resort. In a profound twist, the very environmental stress that is revealing these sites is the same force their original inhabitants once faced. The sophisticated water channels and grain storage facilities we now see were ancient answers to drought and scarcity. They are a library of human adaptation, a collection of blueprints for survival written by generations who learned to thrive under pressure. Their ingenious responses to climate shifts, preserved for centuries, are now resurfacing just as we need them most. What forgotten strategies for managing water, for building resilient communities, or for storing food through lean years are waiting to be rediscovered in these newly uncovered ruins? The past is speaking to us with a new urgency, offering hard-won wisdom from civilizations that met their own environmental crossroads. A forgotten city holds the power to reshape a modern landscape. When the sands part to reveal a grand plaza or a towering wall, the discovery does more than rewrite history books. It can breathe new economic life into entire regions. A major archaeological find becomes a global attraction, drawing visitors whose spending supports local hotels, restaurants, and guides. This influx of tourism revenue creates a powerful cycle, funding not only further research, but also infrastructure and community services that benefit residents long after the initial excitement fades. Consider the ancient city of Petra in Jordan, its breathtaking facades carved directly into rose-colored cliffs. Before its modern prominence, it was a remote site known mainly to the local Bedouin communities. Today, it stands as an UNESCO World Heritage Site and a cornerstone of the Jordanian economy, supporting thousands of jobs and bringing international attention to the nation's rich cultural heritage. Similarly, the remote island of Rapa Nui, or Easter Island, sees travelers from across the globe journey to witness the enigmatic Moai statues, their presence fueling the local economy and fostering a renewed sense of cultural pride. The key to unlocking this potential without causing harm lies in a sustainable tourism model. This approach treats the archaeological site not as a resource to be mined, but as a fragile, living heirloom. It means constructing raised walkways to protect ancient floors from erosion, limiting daily visitor numbers to prevent overcrowding, and designing educational programs that emphasize the site's significance. Most importantly, sustainable models actively involve local communities in the planning and management process. When residents are employed as site guardians, expert guides, and hospitality managers, they become the most passionate and effective stewards of their own heritage. The revenue generated can then be reinvested into local schools, healthcare, and conservation efforts, creating a virtuous circle where cultural preservation fuels community development. This careful balancing act requires a master blueprint of its own, one that weighs public access against long-term preservation. It asks us to consider how we can share these wonders with the world without loving them to death. How do we ensure that the footsteps of today's tourists do not erase the footprints of the ancients? The answer lies in viewing every discovery not as a trophy to be displayed, but as a trust to be managed for generations yet to come. When done with care and respect, an archaeological find can transform from a silent ruin into a vibrant, enduring asset. These ancient blueprints for survival are now providing critical lessons for our own future. The very strategies that allowed civilizations to flourish in arid lands, from passive cooling to sophisticated water harvesting, are being rediscovered by modern architects and engineers. This is not a matter of nostalgia, but of practical necessity. As contemporary cities in dry climates face growing water shortages and rising energy demands, the answers are increasingly being found not in complex new technology, but in the refined wisdom of the past. Consider the wind-catching towers or badgers that crown the skyline of ancient Persian cities. These elegant structures were masterpieces of passive ventilation, designed to funnel cool breezes down into buildings and push hot air out, creating a natural and energy-free form of air conditioning. Today, this ancient principle is being re-engineered. Modern buildings in the Middle East and beyond are incorporating these concepts into their very skeletons, using clever architectural design to promote natural airflow and drastically reduce the need for power-hungry cooling systems. Similarly, the terracotta pipe networks discovered at sites in the Indus Valley, which were used to channel rainwater back into the earth to replenish aquifers, are now inspiring contemporary groundwater recharge projects. This practice, known as rainwater harvesting, is a direct echo of an ancient solution to a very modern problem of depleting water tables. This exchange of knowledge across thousands of years highlights a powerful truth about human ingenuity. It demonstrates that the most elegant solutions are often those that work in harmony with the natural environment rather than fighting against it. The orientation of a building to maximize shade, the use of thermally massive materials like mud brick to regulate indoor temperature, the creation of shaded courtyards that create cool microclimates, these are all age-old design principles that are experiencing a powerful renaissance. How can we apply these strategies more broadly to our current environmental challenges? The answer lies in viewing these ancient sites not as ruins but as open-air universities. Their enduring legacies offer a sustainable blueprint, reminding us that resilience is not about reinventing the wheel, but about remembering how it was first designed to roll. That same impulse to explore a dark cave or cross a distant hill is etched into our very nature, a psychological blueprint as fundamental as any city plan. This relentless curiosity is the engine behind every trowel that breaks the sand, a deep-seated need to solve the puzzle and complete the story. It is a drive built on risk-taking and raw perseverance, qualities shared by the merchants who first traversed these deserts and the modern archaeologists who follow their faded trails. The emotional reward is not merely in the finding, but in the moment of revelation when a faint outline in the soil resolves into the undeniable geometry of a human hand at work. Personal accounts from the field often describe a profound silence that falls over a team when a long-sought wall is finally uncovered, a mix of awe and respect for the generations that built it. This thrill of connection, of touching a past we thought was lost, is a powerful reinforcement fueling the long, difficult days of excavation. It confirms that we are part of a continuous human chain, linked across time by shared ingenuity and ambition. This innate drive ensures the search will never truly end, pushing the boundaries of knowledge ever further into the dunes. Ultimately, this pursuit reveals a core truth about our collective identity. We are not just a species that builds, but one that must understand, compelled to seek out our own reflection in the silent, waiting stones of history. The next layer of discovery lies in the unseen patterns only machines can read. Artificial intelligence is now being trained to scan thousands of satellite images, learning to recognize the faintest geometric signatures of human construction that even the most experienced human eye would miss. This digital prospector can process centuries of cartographic data in hours, cross-referencing ancient maps with modern terrain to predict where a lost settlement might logically lie. At the same time, advanced DNA analysis of the most fragmentary organic remains, from a single bone to a piece of chewed birch tar, is revealing the intimate stories of migration, kinship, and disease that shaped these communities. We can now trace the journey of an individual across continents, understanding their diet and their ancestry, all from a sample too small to see. The horizon holds even more profound tools like quantum sensing, which uses subtle variations in gravity to create detailed images of deep underground structures, potentially allowing us to map entire buried cities from the surface without a single excavation. These are not just incremental improvements, they are fundamental shifts in perception. They promise to connect isolated sites into a coherent network, revealing the true scale of ancient trade and communication across the desert's vast emptiness. This new era is also defined by a spirit of open collaboration. International teams are sharing data in real time through global digital repositories, breaking down silos and allowing a researcher in Europe to instantly access and analyze field data from a dig in Mongolia. This transparency accelerates the pace of discovery exponentially, making archaeology a truly collective, global endeavor. It democratizes the process, inviting in new voices and perspectives that were historically excluded. With these powerful tools and this collaborative framework, we stand on the verge of solving some of history's most persistent puzzles. The final resting place of Genghis Khan, deliberately hidden by his followers, may finally yield its secret to a drone's subtle sensor. The full extent of the Garamantian civilization in Libya, with its hidden fortress cities and vast underground water systems, could be fully mapped, rewriting the history of North Africa. Each of these mysteries represents a missing chapter in the human story. As the digital and the ancient continue to merge, what other profound connections will we draw from the silent, shifting sands? These silent blueprints are more than just relics, they are a conversation across the centuries. Our journey through the shifting sands has shown us that the desert is not a tomb, but a library, its pages written in stone and channeled water. We have walked alongside explorers deciphering ancient maps, listened to the whispers of oral tradition, and watched as satellites and ground-penetrating radar revealed the ghostly outlines of entire cities sleeping just beneath the surface. This fusion of cutting-edge technology and enduring tradition has unlocked profound lessons in architectural brilliance and cultural resilience, reminding us that human ingenuity has always been our greatest tool for adaptation. Each discovery rewrites a paragraph in our shared history, proving that complex societies rose and fell in the most challenging environments, their stories preserved by the very harshness that once threatened them. The sophisticated water systems, the clever passive cooling, the vast trade networks, these are not just artifacts of the past, they are a reservoir of wisdom, offering timeless insights for our own modern challenges with climate and sustainability. The next time you see a vast, empty landscape, remember that it may be holding a blueprint for the future, written in the language of the past. What forgotten strategy for living in balance with our world is still waiting to be found? The search continues, and your perspective is a vital part of it. Share your thoughts on these enduring mysteries in the comments below, and explore the links in the description to dive even deeper. If these journeys into the unknown resonate with you, subscribe to join our community as we uncover the next story, because every grain of sand truly does hold an epic tale.